All right. Hello, hello. Hi there. All right, we are getting started. We're talking about printing and how to work with graphic designers. Let me just start at the beginning. My name is Sari Kimball. I'm the creator of Food Business Success, and I help people start and grow packaged food businesses. So if you have a delicious product that you make in your home kitchen, and you want to get it to market, I am the person you need to talk to. Lots of videos here on the YouTube channel. Also have a podcast under Food Business Success, so go check that out. Tons of free resources on my webpage, the website, and also we have a private Facebook group that you can join us in and talk shop and get answers to your questions. So today, I thought I've been working with a lot of professional printers and just making sure you guys can hear me okay. I think I'm good. Okay, I'm gonna keep going. So working with a lot of printers, working with custom packaging, and I get a lot of questions about how to be more successful, whether that's right a wraparound label, stickers, or it's a pre-printed, right? It's a pre-printed package or a box, pre-printed boxes also. So there's no question that if you are doing a packaged food business, you are definitely going to have to interact with printers and probably with graphic designers, unless you are one. And so I wanted to first start with, do you need a graphic designer? Or when do you use one? And there's no doubt that Canva, right, has made our lives so much easier with being able to do social media graphics, being able to do so much stuff in there. There's no question that Canva is an amazing tool. I use it, we use it in my business. However, when we are talking specifically about things like labels, anything professionally printed really needs to be done in a program called Illustrator. It really can't be done in Canva well. And I'm going to explain a little bit more why. But I love having Canva. I think it's a great tool. But I do recommend working with a graphic designer who understands how you set these things up for professional printing. Because I'd hate for you to spend money on these kind of products, right? Your packaging and labels, and then they don't look good and you spend a lot of money. So don't do that. Okay, so couple of tips for working with graphic designers. First of all, graphic designers just range tremendously in price. And so it's always good to shop around, ask for quotes. Typically, they'll have packages for like logo design or labels. And I just want to make it the note here. I work with lots of different graphic designers. I have my own that I, work with specifically, who are they design packaged food product labels and brands. And then I work with other people's graphic designers, which is totally fine. But just keep in mind that your label needs compliance, right? As well as beauty and being eye-catching and great branding and all the things. So if you're going to work with your own graphic designer, I highly recommend that you work with someone like myself to make sure that this is FDA compliant, because we'd hate for you to, again, go through all that work because a normal designer is just going to lay this out to look pretty. They don't know the way that things have to be for the FDA. Okay, so in any case, my nose is really itchy. All right. Couple things that I always say when you work with a graphic designer is that you want to let them know, like, it needs to be in the contract that you will own your own files. Some graphic designers, I have no idea why, will keep ownership of your files. So then you have to go back to them every time you need an update. And that's just not cool. So I think you should be able to take all your own files with you. Anything that they create, you take with you. So make sure that is written in there. And you want to get different types of files. So you want a PNG that's transparent in certain cases. You want an EPS, you want high resolution and low resolution, and you want that Illustrator file. Okay, very important that you get all the original files as well as those different variations. I also say, I also just I'm kind of throwing extra things in here, but with your logo, always have a designer do a horizontal one and a more stacked one, because you never know, for social media, you might want the stacked, but for other applications, you might want a horizontal. So always good to have two versions with your logo. And then you do want your graphic designer to give you called a brand sheet. And this, or brand standards. You want to get all of your colors, and you want those hex numbers. It's like the number that starts with a pound sign and it's 6 digits long. So you want the hex numbers for your colors. You also want to know the fonts. And very important that your designer has the commercial license for those fonts. And if you're going to use those fonts in social media, if you want to, download those fonts and use them on Canva, if you're going to use them anywhere else, like your website, anything other than what your graphic designer did, then you are going to need to also purchase the commercial license for that. So really important. Those are little things that I see people get burned on sometimes. There are people out there looking for their fonts to see if people have commercial licenses. So they're not usually very expensive, maybe $30 for the font. So something to keep in mind, definitely getting, knowing your fonts, using the correct fonts, and then owning the commercial license. Okay, so let's just say you have, you need to get a label done. All right, let's start with labels, because a lot of people use, stick-on labels, of course. So you're going to have a template, or you're going to create one based on the size of, this label that wraps around. And there's something called bleeds. So your designer needs to make sure that they are creating extra white space around this. So when I turned in this label file, it actually had 1/4 of an inch higher on it. And that's so that you can print edge to edge. And just in case, there's always got to be some wiggle room in there for the printer. So that's what a bleed is. Sometimes it'll be 1/8 of an inch. Sometimes it'll be 1/4 of an inch bleed. When you're working with packaging more like this, you're going to get something called a die line. And that's going to be the full package laid out flat, right? And oftentimes they're going to give you an Illustrator file, and that is also going to have different layers in it. So it gets pretty complex, and that's why you can't do this in Canva. You really do need a graphic designer who understands these programs. Because when I'm working with, EPAC or some of my flexible pouches folks, they're going to give me a design or a file with maybe 7 layers on it. And then I have to put the design on another layer. And there's all these kind of nuanced things, right? And then when the design is done and ready, your designer needs to outline your fonts. That basically takes a font away to be edited. Like, you can no longer edit that font. It becomes almost like it's called a vector, but it becomes like an image. So you can resize it, but you can't go in and just like retype over it. But it's important that they outline fonts, because not every printer is going to have all the fonts. And then if they don't have the fonts, then they have to come ask you for the fonts. So, or you have to go back and outline them. Then when you send so let's say you got your label done, right? Or the packaging, the pre-printed packaging or boxes, you're going to send them the files. And if they're big, I like to use WeTransfer. You can always use Dropbox or Google Drive. And then you're going to say, here's my order. Sometimes companies, like large companies that do pre-printed, they'll probably want a PO, purchase order. So that's just kind of a Word document that has some specific language. You can always Google like purchase order template. But you're going to give them a PO with how many you want, if they're going to mix and match things. My label printer, for instance, I use a company called Leap and Lizard Labels. They're amazing. I love them. And if you just Google leapandlizardlabels.com and let them know you got mine in, you're working with Food Business Success, or you heard about through here, and they give you 20% off your first order. And I don't get anything for that. I just love them. One of the things I love about them is that they do free press proofs. So they will send you some sample, actually I have some here. They'll send you some sample labels like this that you can actually try out on the product in the material you want. So you could be like, give me some that are matte and give me some that are shiny. And that's actually another really good point. Label companies have lots of different kinds of materials. And so you want to make sure you're talking with somebody, and like I said, Leaf and Lizard labels, they're pros. They know this stuff inside and out. And there's real people there, right? You're not talking to a chatbot. But they will tell you, like tell them what the material is. Like, what is is it going in the freezer? Is it going in the fridge? Is it a bottle that will get oily? Is it, there's lots of different things you could think of. So what is the material that is the packaging that it's actually going on, and they'll help you choose the right label. And then there's different finishes like matte and gloss. But love these guys, and I love that you can get free press proofs. Highly recommend anytime you're doing packaging that you get samples of the actual bottles, right? Or the container, and then get the press proofs. And a lot of companies will charge you for these, but they don't. So actually try it on the package, right? And see how it looks. Because I guarantee you I don't know that there's ever been a time that I haven't gone and changed something. Let's just say that. And then, I had one more point. Let's see. Oh, I have one more point about when you start looking around for companies to work with for your different kinds of packaging. I highly recommend when you're smaller and you're just starting out to work with digital printers. So Leaf and Lizard Labels is digital. I work with ePack for the flexible pouches a lot of times. And the reason why I like digital is that it is, you can mix and match. So as long as everything's the same size, then you can, you could get, if you have 5 flavors, you can mix and match to meet their minimum. So it's a great way to be able to do pre-printed packaging and still meet a higher minimum, but just mix and match to meet that. So if there's 3,000, then you can mix and match and get 700 or whatever each kind. Same with the labels, right? As long as they're all the same size, with Leaf and Lizard, you can mix and match because they don't have minimums, but as you go up in quantity, then the price comes down per unit, right? So it's always going to be better for you to get higher quantities. That said, when you're just starting out, I guarantee you're going to change some things on your labels. So I never recommend getting 5,000 of anything. I would start with like 500 or 1,000 maybe. Okay, so let's see. Oh, and then for some of these, you can pay, like you can go ahead and pay to get physical proofs as well. So they won't always be put together like this, but they'll send you like the film that they print on, and you can kind of put together. Actually, I have one. Have one here I did where I like cut it out and I stapled it, but it's really helpful to see. Yeah, you can see my staple in there, but it's super helpful to actually be able to put the cookies inside, right? And make sure this is the right size of bag, and that, yeah, things are lined up the way that you want to. So I do recommend if it's that first time, getting that physical proof. Then they're also going to send you a digital proof. And this is something you're going to want to review. If you can't get a physical proof, then do print off the electronic proof. And I do recommend printing them off. And one thing you can do if you have multiples is hold them together up against the light and make sure everything is like matching up, right? Because we have like 3 different cookies here, and I held up the proofs and one of them was a little bit off center. So I was able to catch that before we went to print and just fix those little things. And also cutting out the proof if you can't get a physical label and trying it on the product itself. So highly recommend that. You're going to sign off and say it's good, I approve, and then it goes to print. All right. And then it's so fun. I love it when you get these things back. It's like the best It's just so fun when you actually get these things in the mail and you have real product and you're ready to go. I think that's all I needed to cover. If anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer questions, but those are just some tips and tricks. I've been, seeing a lot of people make little mistakes with working with graphic designers, working with printers, and it's just something that can be really fun, but it can be a costly mistake if you don't love your labels. So, any questions? I don't see anything coming in. So I want to encourage you guys to check out the other videos on the YouTube channel. Lots and lots of videos here that help you start and grow your packaged food business. And then also check out the podcast and join us in the private Facebook group, the Packaged Food Business Success. It's a group just for packaged food folks, CBG. That's what you are if you do a packaged food. So come join us, join the conversation. You can ask your questions there and keep moving forward. And when you're ready, come join me in Food Business Success. I would love to work with you then. All right, you guys, have a great day.